There are roads most drivers avoid after dark. Long stretches of asphalt that vanish into the black, where the only company is the hum of your engine and whatever's watching from the trees. But for some truckers, it's not just bad weather or mechanical failure they fear. It's what gets in the cab when you least expect it. 3 drivers, 3 encounters, 1 terrifying truth that never made it to dispatch. These aren't just stories. They're confessions. So grab a drink, lock your doors, and if you're brave enough to ride with us, hit that subscribe button. Let's roll. I've been driving rigs for damn near 20 years, and I've seen things on the road that most folks wouldn't believe. Tornadoes rip through rest stops like they were paper shacks, drunks swerving into oncoming lanes, and deer staring you dead in the eyes as they leap into your headlights. But nothing compares to what happened that night on Highway 377. It wasn't a hallucination. It wasn't a dream. I know what I saw, and I'm only still breathing because hell, maybe someone was watching out for me. It started like any other night run. I was hauling refrigeration units out of Amarillo, headed southeast through the backstretches of Texas. The plan was to hit a truck stop near Brownwood by 3 a.m. and grab a few hours of sleep before offloading. My CB was quiet, the road empty. The kind of lonely only truckers really understand. I had a fresh cup of coffee, a podcast going in one ear, and the hum of the tires doing their usual lullaby. Somewhere near the ghost town of Cuthbert, I saw him. He was standing on the shoulder of the highway, thumb out, bag in one hand. At first glance, he looked like any other drifter, maybe early 30s, wiry, hooded sweatshirt, jeans too long for his legs. But what stopped me wasn't his look. It was the way he stood, perfectly still, not shifting weight, not glancing around nervously, just staring ahead like he knew I would stop. And for some reason I did. Now look, I don't pick up hitchhikers. I've got too much to lose. But something about him, I can't explain it. Like my hands turned the wheel before my brain caught up. I pulled onto the shoulder, rolled the window down halfway. "You all right?" I called out. He didn't speak at first, just walked up slowly to the passenger door and waited. I flipped the lock, hesitated, then opened it. "Where you headed?" I asked. He climbed in without a word, tossed his duffel to the floor. Then finally, "Anywhere south." He didn't smell like a bum. He didn't twitch like a tweaker, but his voice, flat, hollow, like something trying to imitate a person. I told myself I was being paranoid. I've met weirdos before. Comes with the territory. We drove in silence for a few miles. "Name's Daniel." I offered, mostly to cut the tension. "Nothing." He glanced over. His hood was still up, head angled just slightly away, like he was staring into the dark trees beyond the shoulder. His hands were folded neatly in his lap. Pale, almost too pale. After a few more minutes, he finally said, "Do you believe some people don't have a place in this world?" I raised an eyebrow. "You mean like spiritually?" He turned to look at me, and I swear my skin crawled. His eyes didn't catch the dashboard lights the way they should have. They looked matte, like marbles, like they soaked in light instead of reflecting it. "No," he said. "I mean people born wrong, born outside of things, people that shouldn't be here." I forced a chuckle. "That's a hell of a thing to say." He didn't laugh, just faced forward again. "Some people aren't meant to be found, not by anyone." I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. I just kept driving, knuckles white on the wheel, trying to pretend like I hadn't just picked up a walking horror movie plot. That's when I noticed the smell. It wasn't body odor. It wasn't sweat. It was like old meat and formaldehyde. Faint at first, but getting stronger. I cracked my window subtly as I could. "You smell that?" I asked. "I've always smelled like this," he said without hesitation. That's when I realized something was very wrong. I glanced down at his shoes. They were soaked. Not just wet, soaked. Dark patches rising up the denim like he'd walked through a bog. But the floor was dry. No puddles. No footprints. Just dry floor and dripping shoes. And his bag. It was moving. I thought maybe it was a rat or something alive inside it. I reached over slowly to turn on the cabin light, pretending I needed to check my dash. As the light flicked on, he flinched visibly and turned his face away. I caught a glimpse of his cheek. It wasn't a cheek. It looked like wax. No pores. No estable. Smooth like a prosthetic. His skin didn't move when he blinked. It just slightly shifted, like a mask. I hit the cabin light off immediately. "Everything okay?" he asked, too calm. "Yeah," I muttered. Just checking fuel economy." Another mile went by in silence. Then, clear as day, I heard a whisper. Not from him, from the bag. It said my name. Not screamed it, not muttered it, whispered it. "Daniel." I slammed the brakes. Hard. My rig lurched, tires screaming against asphalt. I pulled to the shoulder through in park and said, You gotta get out." He didn't move. "I'm serious," I said louder. "Get out of my truck. Now." Still nothing. Then he leaned slightly, just enough for the overhead light to catch his face again. And this time I saw it. The skin around his jaw had cracked, peeling away like paper left in water. Beneath it, teeth. Too many. Not in rows, but scattered. Random. Like a mosaic of mouths underneath his fake skin. "You invited me in," he said quietly. "You don't get to change your mind." That's when the bag burst open. Not like a zipper being pulled. Like something inside ripped through it. Black limbs spilled out, spindly, jointed wrong, twitching like insects. I swear to God I saw a face blink up at me from inside that bag. A face made of stitched-together flesh. I didn't wait. I launched across the cab, shoulder-checked him hard, and opened the passenger door from the inside. The thing hissed like boiling water. Then it laughed. Or maybe it was the thing in the bag. Either way, it echoed in my skull like radio static. He didn't fight as I shoved him out. Just fell backward onto the road, limbs bending like they weren't even made of bones. I slammed the door shut, threw the truck into gear, and floored it. The mirrors. God, I wish I hadn't looked. He wasn't lying in the road. He was standing, back straight, hands by his sides, watching me disappear down the highway. And he was smiling. Not just with his mouth, with everything. His face split open as he smiled. Cracks forming at the edges like a dry mask breaking apart. And something inside that face was smiling too. I didn't stop again until I hit a love station 40 miles out. I parked in the furthest lit bay, walked straight into the bathroom, locked the stall, and sat there for an hour. Just breathing, shaking. The duffel bag? I never touched it. But in the rear view, just before I kicked him out, I saw something inside climb back down. Like whatever lived in there didn't need to breathe. I haven't told anyone this. Not my dispatcher, not my wife. I'm afraid if I say too much, he'll find me again. Or worse, something else will. I still drive Highway 377. Sometimes. But I don't pick up anyone anymore. No matter how normal they look. No matter how desperate they seem. Because some people aren't people. Some are just wearing the skin of one. And some things don't want to ride. They want to host. My name's Evan Hale. Been driving long-haul rigs since I was 21. And I'll be damned if I ever thought I'd end up talking about this. I've hauled meat, medicine, engines, even radioactive barrels once. But nothing as dangerous as what I picked up just outside Flagstaff, Arizona. This ain't some ghost story. This is what happens when you stop listening to your instincts and start listening to someone who ain't supposed to be alive. I was doing a run from Phoenix to Portland. Simple enough. Had to take Route 89 north and make a fuel stop before heading into Utah. I remember it was just after midnight when I passed exit 34, a barely lit off-ramp with a busted diner and an old motel sign flickering in the trees. Just before I could pass it, I saw a figure on the side of the road, waving both arms like he was drowning in air. Normally, I don't stop. Most truckers don't. You never know who's out there. Could be cops, convicts, or cartel. But something about this guy, he looked desperate, pale, shirt torn, blood on his hands. So I slowed down. I rolled down the window. "You all right, man?" I asked. He didn't answer at first, just stood there, eyes locked on mine like he hadn't seen a friendly face in years. "They took her," he finally said. "They're still out there, in the trees." I should have driven off right then. Should have said, "Sorry, buddy, not my problem." But I opened the door and let him climb in. He kept looking over his shoulder, breathing like he'd run miles barefoot. He said his name was Travis, and that he and his girlfriend had been camping in the pines off exit 34. Around sundown, they heard whispers. Not animals, actual voices calling from deeper in the woods. She went to look and never came back. Travis swore he saw lights, floating ones, blinking between the trees like searchlights. I asked if he called the cops. No signal, and I was being watched. I figured he was high, maybe hallucinating or worse. But the further we got from exit 34, the more his story changed. First he said there were voices. Then he said they sang. That they didn't want her, they wanted him. That she screamed his name, but he ran. And then he started talking about them like he still heard them in his head. They move with the trees, he whispered. They don't like when the pine needles stop falling. I tried changing the subject, asked where he was from, who he could call, but he just stared at the windshield, muttering about how they follow sound. So I should turn off the CB, unplug the dash cam, even stop breathing heavy. Then the radio cut out. I hadn't touched it. Just a sudden pop, static, and then a low voice, deep as the earth itself, came through. You took what's ours? I slammed the knob, turned the radio off completely, but Travis started shrieking, pressing himself against the door, covering his ears. They know, he screamed. They know I left her. And just like that, his face changed, dead still. No panic, no fear, just stillness. He looked at me and smiled. Not a nervous smile, the kind of smile you see on something that wants to wear your skin. I wasn't supposed to leave, he said. Now I'm part of them. That's when he grabbed the wheel. I swerved so hard the rig nearly tipped into the ditch. I elbowed him hard and he let go. Blood ran down from my temple where I hit the side panel, but I kept control, barely. When I looked back at him, he was gone, just vanished. No door open, no footprints, no sound. The seat was empty. I stopped at the next way station and made the report, but they couldn't find a damn thing. No sign of the man, no missing campers in the area, and the pine trail off exit 34 doesn't exist on any recent maps. 2 weeks later, I checked my dash cam footage. Thought maybe I hallucinated the whole thing. Except there was footage. You can see me driving. You can see me talking. But the passenger seat? Empty. The whole damn time. And then, right before the camera cuts to black, there's a hand on my shoulder. I haven't driven past exit 34 since. Hell, I haven't driven at night since. Because I still hear it sometimes. A low hum in the radio, even when it's off. And every time I stop for gas near Pine Woods, I smell the same thing. Burned leather and wet moss. They're still out there. And they don't like unfinished business. I've been driving long haul for over 20 years now. You learn to live by the rhythm of the road. The hum of the tires, the growl of the engine, the lonely comfort of headlights cutting through the dark. I've crossed 48 states and seen more weirdness than I care to remember, but nothing like what happened 2 winters ago, just outside Idaho Falls. I picked up a load of medical supplies in Salt Lake and was hauling up to Billings, Montana. Weather was already turning sour, thick, sideways snow hammering the windshield, visibility shot to hell. I could have pulled into a rest stop for the night, but I was trying to make good time. I thought if I just stayed focused and drove slow, I'd beat the worst of it. Big mistake. I was about 5 miles north of a lonely little stretch known as mile marker 212. No towns, no exits, just pine trees crowding the shoulder and nothing but static on the radio. I was half a cup of gas station coffee away from nodding off when I saw him. A figure, standing on the edge of the road. He didn't wave, didn't stick out his thumb. He just stood there, facing me, wearing a long coat, arms limp at his sides, like he'd been waiting for me. Now, I've seen plenty of folks stranded before, and I usually stop. But there was something off about this guy, something that didn't sit right. I slowed anyway, mostly out of instinct, and as I passed, he stepped into the lane. I slammed the brakes. The truck fishtailed, ABS kicking in hard. I stopped just short of him. My hands were shaking on the wheel. He didn't flinch, just walked around to the passenger side and knocked on the door with a slow, steady rhythm, like he knew I'd open it. I wish to God I hadn't. I rolled the window down halfway. "You all right, man?" His face was pale, wind-chapped, beard caked with frost. But his eyes, they were dry, too dry, wide open and bloodshot like he hadn't blinked in hours. "You're going to Billings," he said. Not a question, just a flat statement. I blinked. "How'd you know that?" He didn't answer, just stared. I noticed then, no steam coming from his mouth. in sub-zero air. He looked frozen solid, but he didn't shiver. Against better judgment, I unlocked the door and let him in. Told myself I was doing a good deed. He climbed in stiffly and sat upright, eyes fixed forward. Didn't say another word. For the next hour, the cab was silent. No radio, no small talk, just the sound of tires on ice and my pulse thudding in my ears. I tried a few times to break the silence. Asked where he was headed, if he'd been walking long, but he ignored me completely. Then, somewhere past the state line, he spoke again. "You should turn around now." I glanced at him. "What?" "You should have turned around miles ago. You can't get back now." My skin prickled. "Look, if you need help. You'll see it soon," he said. Then he smiled. First time he'd made any expression. It wasn't relief. It was anticipation. I didn't like that one bit. I started to pull over. Figured I'd kick him out and deal with the storm solo. But before I could stop, the engine died. Flat out died. All the lights on the dash blinked off. The heater stopped. The cab went dead cold. I reached for my phone, but it wouldn't power on. Same with the CB. The man was still smiling. Outside, the snow had stopped. Not slowly, but like someone had hit a switch. Wind, flakes, clouds gone. Clear as glass. Moonlight lit the road ahead like a ghost spotlight. I stepped out of the cab to check under the hood. The silence was wrong. Not peaceful. Pressurized. Like standing in the eye of a storm, just waiting for the walls to close in. And then I saw it. Up ahead, maybe 50 yards past the truck, was a second figure. Same build. Same long coat. Just standing there in the road. My breath caught. I turned back to the cab. He was gone. Passenger seat empty. Door still locked. Like he'd vanished mid-sentence. I ran back inside. Locked the doors, tried the key. Nothing. Everything dead. I looked up again and saw more figures stepping out from the trees. Not fast. Not threatening. Just calm. Deliberate. They walked in unison. Same coat. Same gait. Same unreadable faces. Closing in from both sides. I swear to you, I didn't leave footprints in the snow. I panicked, started pounding the dash, flipping every switch. And suddenly, the truck roared to life. Every light, every gauge, all at once. Like something rebooted. I slammed it in gear and floored it. Didn't stop until I hit the outskirts of Butte, Montana. Pulled into a 24-hour diner, hands still trembling, heart like a jackhammer. I asked the waitress if she'd heard of anyone hitchhiking along that route. She went pale. "You're not the first one to say that," she said. "Some trucker froze to death up there in '91. Said he saw things before his rig slid off the ridge. No footprints. No signs of trauma. Just gone." She paused. Said the guy he picked up had his same face. I didn't sleep for 2 days. Every time I close my eyes, I see that road. I see him waiting. If you ever find yourself near mile marker 212, don't stop for anything. Especially not for a man who seems like he was expecting you. He's still out there, waiting for another ride. I watched him in the rearview mirror as he just stood there, not waving, not pacing, just standing like he knew I was going to pull over eventually. Like he'd seen this play out before. And maybe he had. Something about that stillness, that complete lack of urgency, put a cold weight on my chest. But I was already slowing down, gravel crunching under my tires as I eased the truck onto the shoulder. "Don't be stupid," I muttered to myself, grabbing the flashlight I kept in the glove box. But that voice in my head, the same one that's helped me survive blizzards in Wyoming and meth head hitchhikers in Arizona, it was screaming now. "Drive. Just drive, Wes. Don't even open the door." But I did. I opened the damn door. "Hey," I called out, stepping down onto the dirt shoulder. "You all right, man?" He didn't answer, just stood about 10 feet away, face hidden under the bill of that old trucker hat, soaked flannel clinging to him like a second skin. I clicked on the flashlight, and that's when I noticed it. His boots were dry, bone dry, not a speck of mud on them, not a drop of water, nothing. That stretch of road was a swampy mess. My own boots were already sinking slightly into the muck, but his, they looked like they just came out of a box. That's when he spoke, voice soft, but with this weird metallic echo like it wasn't meant for human ears. "I lost my way. I froze. Where you headed?" "Mile marker 212. That gave me a jolt. 212? That marker had been removed years ago after a landslide rerouted the road. There was nothing out there now but woods and a washed-out bridge. "Look, man," I said cautiously. "There's nothing out there anymore. You sure you don't mean 221 or 198? He tilted his head, and for the first time, I saw part of his face in the flashlight beam. And God help me, it wasn't right. It wasn't a face built for this world. His mouth was too wide. Or maybe his jaw was just unhinged, and his skin looked like old wax that had been left in the sun too long, drooping and folding in the wrong places. But his eyes, they weren't eyes at all. They were glass, like the kind they put in mannequins. Reflective, hollow, dead. "I'm headed to mile marker 212, he repeated. Same tone, same cadence. I stepped back. "Look, I can call someone for you. Sheriff station's 20 minutes west." He moved then. Just a step, but it was fast, too fast, and silent. "I don't need help," he said. "I need a ride." I backed toward the cab. "I'm not going that way." He tilted his head the other direction, not curious, but calculating. "Then you'll never make it past dawn." That's when I slammed the door and threw the truck into gear. I didn't look back. I didn't breathe until I hit 60. But even then, every hair on my neck stayed up. I kept checking the side mirror, expecting to see that pale figure running along the shoulder, gaining on me. Hat pulled low, jaw unhinged. But there was nothing. Not for a few minutes. Then the CB crackled to life. My heart jumped. I hadn't touched the damn thing all night. The channel was dead silent for a beat, then a voice came through. Low, distant. "You should have taken a ride, Wesley." I nearly drove off the road. I yanked the cord out of the CB, heart jackhammering in my chest, sweat pouring down my back like ice water. And for the rest of the night, that radio stayed dead. No weather reports. No chatter. Just silence. I didn't stop again until dawn. Not for gas. Not for coffee. Nothing. Just drove west with the windows down and every light on. But the worst part? When I stopped at a rest area around 6:30 a.m., there was a second truck there. Parked neatly, engine cold like it had been there a while. Its license plate read, M212 Man. And sitting in the passenger seat, like he just stepped out for a piss, was that damn flannel jacket. Still soaked. Still warm. If you made it this far, you're braver than most. But trust me, the next story is even darker. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and buckle up. The road ahead only gets worse.